Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
To convert or not to convert, that is the question.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, Tony Walker.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it, get more of it. The less they need.
When an engine needs a rebuild, I bring it to Joe.
That's me.
And you know what he's rebuilding a lot more of these days?
4-cylinder engines.
Small engines work a lot harder than big engines, so if you have a small car, it's even more important to take care of it right. Change the oil regularly, and put in a new Fram oil filter when you're supposed to. A Fram filter doesn't cost much.
I do.
But the choice is yours. You can pay me now.
Or pay me later.
Now that's a classic commercial, and to me one of the greatest one-liners ever. Basically, that Fram oil filter commercial of old there, most of you probably remember that one, basically says you can pay me now or pay me later, which is basically what the government is saying when it comes to the money inside your IRA or 401k. You can pay the taxes now to them, or you can wait, put off the pain, as I like to say, and pay them later. But either way, just like that Fram oil filter commercial, you're going to pay. So, assuming you have money in a 401k or IRA, a 403b plan, thrift savings account, or maybe you've got a lump sum pension you're thinking about rolling over into an IRA, when it comes to paying the government the taxes owed on that money, you've only got two choices for dealing with those taxes. Number one, you can either pay the government now, or number two, pay them later. The question is, which one is best? So let's review this again. A, you can do like millions and millions, the majority of people are doing right now. You can defer the taxes owed on your 401k or IRA as long as possible, right? That's called pre-tax, and that's what most people do. That's your first option. Or two, option B here, you can pay the taxes now and then allow the money to never be taxed again. So let me repeat the question. Would you rather defer the taxes, in other words, put money in a pre-tax account, or would you rather tax the money now and be tax-free forever? Well, the answer is, hate to tell you this, folks, it depends. Well, welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am your host, 401k rollover specialist and fiduciary Tony Walker. And on today's show, we're going to delve into the most interesting topic ever known to man. In fact, America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Orander, you're already interested in this topic, aren't you, Aaron? I can tell. I had to nudge him there. I think he was getting ready to fall asleep, folks. That's right. The ultimate in planning. It's called the Roth Conversion. I've already got your attention, I can tell. But folks, hold on here a minute, because as boring as this sounds, this idea alone potentially could save you literally thousands upon thousands of dollars in taxes. It's a very, very popular strategy. And while I'm a big proponent of Roth conversions, in other words, what we're going to find out, pay the tax now, there's some real potential drawbacks to this strategy, so we're going to delve in detail. So if you're one of those people out there that's got a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, you've been socking money away in that thing like mad because everybody's told you to do so, you've been enjoying more than likely what's called a pre-tax deduction. In other words, all this money goes in before any taxes are paid. And it feels good. I know that. It feels great because you're, quote, thinking you're saving money on taxes. But are you really? Well, that's what we're going to dive into. So it's some good stuff. And I know this is a radio show. We do want to welcome all our listeners, and you're probably driving around. This is one of those, though, I'd go back. You might want to listen to again on our website at Tony Walker Financial. We are still putting those on the site, aren't we, Aaron? Yep. Or maybe just really listen and take a few notes, because this is some good stuff. And by the end of today's program, my hope is that you're going to better understand the difference between what we call a traditional deductible IRA. That's That's going to be the pay the government later scenario. And a Roth IRA, which is non-deductible, which that's the Fram oil filter, you can pay now, all right? And the question is, how do we, is there a law, and the law says we can do this, how can we convert, that's why it's called a Roth conversion, how can we convert a pre-tax, pay taxes later into pay taxes now, and why in the world would you even consider doing that? Now, there's a graphic we use in our workshops all the time and even on the television show. By the way, the TV show, The Worry Free Retirement, I invite you to check out the TV times. That's at TonyWalkerFinancial.com as well, because a lot of times people like the TV show as well, because then we have graphics, more visuals, and even describing today's topic is going to be a little difficult and a little challenging for radio. Hang in there with me. I think you'll get the gist of it, but would encourage you to watch the TV show, The Worry-Free Retirement, which is on in Bowling Green and also several major stations in Louisville, Kentucky. Again, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to check out the times. But as you can see from this graphic, we call this the tax tumor. And the tax tumor basically says, in this example, you've got $250,000, let's say, and it's in a 401k, and you're still churning and burning and throwing money in there. And what you don't realize is that $250,000, again, depending on your tax bracket, we're going to talk about the new tax laws that went into effect and the new tax brackets in the next segment, but depending on your tax bracket, this money really has within it a tax tumor. So in our example, let's say you're in a 35% federal and state bracket. Hopefully you're not that high, but you could be, especially down the road. That's what my concerns are. What are the taxes going to be down the road if you're going to pay the government later? See what I'm saying here? It's very difficult to plan for when you're doing the pre-tax 401k or IRA deduction. But if we were to just liquidate this account of $250,000, there is a $70,000 tax tumor. In other words, the government takes $70,000 and you're left with the balance. Now, fast forward, we're going to run out 30 years here at 5%, assuming you make that. You got well over $800,000 in that 401k IRA. You call somebody like me and say, hey, I'm ready to retire, Tony, and can I roll this 401k over to you, and I'm going to enjoy my 800 and some odd thousand? And I say, wait a minute, hold on. Did you realize that you've got an even bigger tax tumor? Because the larger the account grows, the larger the tax tumor. You see, folks, the government doesn't care if you defer this money. They're fine with this pre-tax scenario because they know they're going to get their revenue one day. And again, my concern and the concern of a lot of people right now, we are in some of the lowest tax brackets in terms of what the government's going to tax. Some of the lowest tax brackets we've been in a long time. So the question is, if you defer this and take it out, let's say in 15, 20, 30 years, the government has every right to increase tax rates and take more of your money. That's the pay me later or pay the government later scenario, and it's a dangerous scenario given the fact that we're in lower brackets now. Now, again, we're not telling you not to fund the 401k. Kind of hear me here. We're just trying to understand the complexity here and understand what's fraught with danger in terms of you piling all of your money in what the pundits like to call maxing out your 401k plan. So what we're going to do when we come back, hopefully you've got an understanding of the tax tumor, and one of the major ways we can deal with that tax tumor now is something called a Roth conversion. So we're going to give you an exact example when I come back. This is good stuff. Again, if you've got a 401k plan, if you've got an IRA, maybe a thrift savings account, maybe even you're thinking about moving your pension. Maybe you're one of those rare souls that still has a lump sum pension. We work with some of those people. And you're going to put it in an IRA, you're going to want to understand this concept of a Roth conversion and learn how it can potentially save you thousands upon thousands of dollars in taxes. Oh, and I want to add this too, not only just you, but your family when you pass away. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Tired of getting up every day and heading off to work with no end in sight? I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and I've helped lots of people retire much sooner than they ever thought possible, and maybe I can help you do the same.
If you're over the age of 50 and have at least $250,000 to invest, schedule your free meeting with Tony to see if you can retire sooner than you think. Simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Tired of the roller coaster ride of the stock market? Let Tony Walker show you how to smooth out the ride with your money. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches.
Oh, yes, our Tony in the Trenches is not really a question, but a situation that came up the other day. We're recording this show, by the way, on October 16th, 2018, our Louisville studios. And actually, we've got America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Orander, and his favorite financial sidekick, Matt Stebbins. Both of those gentlemen help with the radio and TV show. Matt doesn't do as much in the radio show. In fact, I don't even know, what are you doing in here right now, Matt? I think he's over there eating cereal or something. But usually he works really hard, and they both help produce the show. But, you know, I was thinking about this whole notion of people, and we do a lot of advertising with radio, TV shows. And what's interesting, almost laughable, I haven't told you all this story, but how many financial advisors, they seem to know more about what we do than we do. Give you an example. So we had a client of mine whose daughter lost her husband recently. So the daughter received some money. And by the way, folks, if you go in with a decent-sized check to your local bank, I know Kmart went out of business recently or filed bankruptcy, but there used to be something at Kmart called the blue light special. Did you guys ever see that? You're walking there. And everybody would run to the blue light because something there would be enormously reduced in price. But you got to understand something. When you walk into a bank and hand a teller a large check, it's back there in the back room in the vault or something, but there's got to be a blue light going off because that bank is alerted. Those people know. And in fact, this is what happened. So the young lady takes some proceeds she received from the death of a spouse, goes into the bank, and the teller, nice teller lady, says, "Hey, where'd you get all this money?" And she kind of told her, and she said, "Well, you need to talk to one of our representatives." And the young lady said, "Well, my mom's kind of introducing me to Tony Walker. I think I'll probably talk to them." But they went on and asked her to set up an appointment, and she did, and she went on and canceled with them, and she met with me yesterday. So we're just trying to get an understanding of what she's got. And she said, "Can I tell you the story?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "Well," she went through the whole routine. So she went back in the other day. This was the conclusion to this story. Went back in the other day, and the teller said, "Hey, how come you didn't keep that appointment with our bank representative, our investment guy?" And she said, "Well, I think I'm just going to work with Tony Walker." And she said, "Well, I told the bank representative guy that, and he just kind of rolled his eyes." And my client said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, he rolled his eyes and said, 'Oh, Tony Walker, he's just going to throw it all in an annuity.'" Now, here's the funny part. The lady whom I'm working with hadn't even met me yet, said, "Well, what's an annuity?" And the teller said, "I don't know." So this was just comical. So, and ironically, in this case, yeah, we do a lot of annuities. We're known around the country for the amount of annuities we do. But in this case, we're not going to do any annuities. We're going to put her money in our Charles Schwab platform because she needs the liquidity and because it's been so recent since her husband's death. But the point is, we do a lot of planning. And if you hear advisors try to tell people about what we do, in most cases, they have no clue what we do or the level of expertise. Incidentally, if you are talking to other advisors, we are happy to share Form ADV Part 2. It's on our website. We are fiduciaries. And I'm also actually, we do have Matt. Matt's in charge of the website. We've got our updated credentials on there, Matt. I would encourage you to go look at those credentials. And then I would ask the know-it-alls wherever they are that think they know about what we do, ask them to see their credentials and ask them for their Form ADV Part 2 to make sure you even got a fiduciary working with you. So anyway, just a food for thought there. Let's get back to the main gist of the show. Interesting Tony in the Trenches, though. All right, so we're talking, if you're just now joining us, about what is a Roth conversion. And should, like the Fram oil filter commercial, should we pay the government now or pay them later? And the essence of the old Fram oil filter is you're going to pay one way or the other. So let's take this scenario. Let's say that I've got $300,000 or you've got $300,000. This is just an example, okay? And let's say you're now 60 years of age. You have the ability, if you're over 59 and a half, in most cases your employer will let you roll that 401k over to an individual advisor like us. So what we would do, we would contact your employer's custodian. Let's say that's Mutual of Nairobi or whatever. So we contact Mutual of Nairobi and we request that your 401k be sent to us. We put that in a custodial relationship with one of our companies. There's no cost to move it over. There's no taxes. And the beauty of this is now you've got a local trusted fiduciary that's handling your account versus some 1-800 number. Then comes the planning. Here comes the tough questions, and this is where 34 years of expertise, I think, bodes well for you, because all of the planning services, there's no charge for this type of expertise. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out what is the darn tax tumor. The second thing we're going to figure out is when is the best time to actually use this 401k. Do we defer it? Do we use income now? Do we take Social Security now? Do we take Social Security later? What are the taxes going to be? Is there other income associated with this? Where is it invested? Do you want to turn some of this mailbox money on at some point? Do you want us to invest it in a position where we can have some protection? All these things are important questions, but more importantly, how are we going to deal with the tax tumor? So we think about a Roth conversion. So here's how this would work. We might take, let's use an extreme example. Let's just say you say, Tony, I don't want to pay any taxes down the road. I'm willing to pay the tax now. So let's just convert the entire $300,000 into a Roth IRA. Can I do that? And I would say, yeah, you can do that. That's going to be very costly. So here's the new tax brackets. Heather in our office, who helps run all the tax scenarios for us, ran this for me. So the new marginal bracket, I call this the 12%. What did I come up with, Aaron? Do you remember? The 12% bracket has never been in place, and it is now. I call it the 12% factor. There you go. Just kind of came up with that. But basically, our goal, if we can't always do this, but in retirement, is try to keep under the new tax laws your tax bracket no more than 12%, because the upper brackets can go as high as 37%. So the problem is, if you take this whole $300,000, convert it to a Roth, that's right, the $300,000 will be tax-free forever. The growth on it will be tax-free forever. You won't have to take any minimum distributions at 70.5. Your kids will get it tax-free, and you say, why wouldn't anybody not do that? That'd be crazy not to do it. And I'd say, well, slow down, partner, because if we convert that whole thing, we're going to have to put that full $300,000 on your tax return, which then is going to throw you into about a 35% bracket. That's just federal. That doesn't include state. So that means the government's going to come in and want to have 40% of the 300. They want their tax bill. In other words, yeah, you can convert it, but you're going to owe the government now $120,000 in taxes. And let that sink in just a minute. And you're saying, well, wait a minute, where's the tax savings? That's the silliest thing I've ever done. Who would do a Roth conversion? Well, that's why you've got to be careful in doing these, and you've got to be more strategic. Now, what would make more sense to consider? Let's use this same scenario. Now somebody comes in, they says, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying all those taxes. But we figure out, hey, what if we just convert 20,000 of the 300,000 this year, 20,000 next year, and then 20,000 subsequently? And you might say, can you do that? And I'd say, absolutely, you can do it. And the beauty of that is, in this example we're using, let's say you had minimal income from other sources. Maybe you had a little bit of Social Security that your wife was bringing in. I don't know. You just, what we can do, though, is monitor how much can we convert, and as best we can, try to keep all of that income within the 12% tax bracket. Now, that's much more manageable. Now, why would we even consider doing this? With a Roth conversion, anytime you're thinking about pay me now or pay me later, what we're trying to do as best we can, and we can't predict the future with tax laws, but what we're trying to do is think through, all right, if I go on and pay the government now, let's use that example. I take $20,000 out of the 300, I convert it to a Roth. Now I'm in a 12% bracket. So roughly to do the math real quick, I got to give the government $2,500 in taxes now, which I can manage that. Maybe you're sitting there saying, well, shoot, I got that money sitting in my checking, Tony. I can do that. So you take the $2,500 at the end of the tax year. You got to write a check on it. That goes to the government. You pay them now. But guess what? That $20,000 plus any and all growth, all right, all growth, when you take it out down the road, is tax-free. Plus, if you don't need it, you don't have to take it out. Because at 70.5, unlike the pre-tax 401k or IRA that requires you to start taking money out whether you want it or not, they do that so they can get their taxes, you could just keep deferring this and let it grow tax-free. And then here, to me, is the key from a planning standpoint for your kids. if you don't spend all your money and you leave it to the kids, if you've got it in what we call a pre-tax deductible IRA, the traditional way everybody does it, then your kids inherit it. Now they are stuck with the tax tumor. And my question is, I guess my concern, it's not really a question, my concern is, if you die in 15, 20, 30 years from now, I just saw on the news today, I was watching the deficits. Although the tax laws have come down, the economy's roaring, actually the deficits have crept up a little bit. That means outgo and ingo with the government is not really doing well right now, which concerns me in the future because we then have to think, well, wait a minute, are we going to get an administration or is it going to be a situation down the road where they're going to have to raise taxes to cover the deficits and everything? And that could very well happen. So the problem there is you die, you have your traditional IRA, the pay me later kind of thing. You leave, let's say it's got $200,000 left in it. Let's say you've spent some of it and you leave $200,000 to kids. Well, now they got to pay taxes on that money, or their only option is to do what's called a stretch IRA, which is really not for them all that great of a deal because they're not going to get to enjoy the money now. So what we do in our practice, this is a free offer. What I would be willing to do, if you've listened closely, if you've got a 401k or IRA, if you're over the age of 55, now's the time to plan. Now, it doesn't matter if you're over 70, that's fine too, but really what we're trying to help are people that are roughly 50 to 55 and older. Again, so whether you're retired or retiring soon, you need to sit down with me and go through a Roth Conversion analysis. Now, what we'll do in that meeting, I'll look at your entire situation. There's absolutely no cost or obligation. And what we're going to do is come back and see how can we mitigate or start dealing with the tax tumor. And then more importantly, since the topic at hand, there's several ways to do that, but today's topic is the Roth conversion. What would happen if we did a Roth conversion? Make sense? Now, this is easy to do. All you got to do to take advantage of this free offer, we have offices in Bowling Green and Louisville, and I'd be happy to meet with you at either of those offices, whichever is convenient for you. But you can call 877-499-9255. Call 877-499-9255. That takes you directly to our offices. You tell them what you're looking for, what's the most convenient location. We'll send you what's called a starter kit, and we'll make that happen. Or if you'd just like to go to our website right away or download our website on your mobile apparatus there, it's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and click on the Let's Get Started. All right, we've got a few minutes left in the show. I'm going to take a quick break and come back, and I'm going to warn you about something. If you're thinking about a Roth conversion or you've been talking to somebody about one recently, the one pitfall that most advisors do not understand, and it's a dangerous pitfall of fully understanding the Roth conversion, it's called lost opportunity cost. Good stuff. I'll be right back. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Do you have a 401k, IRA, thrift savings account, 403b, or lump sum pension that you'd like to move to safer territory? Did you know that all the money you see on your 401k statement isn't really yours? Depending on your overall taxable income, the government has essentially a lien on your 401k that can tax as much as 40% of your money when you go to take it out. Tony Walker calls this the 401k tax tumor. For over 33 years, retirement specialist Tony Walker has helped thousands of savers worry less about money by creating game plans to deal with your tax tumor. Get control of your retirement by controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Tired of getting up every day and heading off to work with no end in sight? I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and I've helped lots of people retire much sooner than they ever thought possible, and maybe I can help you do the same.
If you're over the age of 50 and have at least $250,000 to invest, schedule your free meeting with Tony to see if you can retire sooner than you think. Simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Thank you for joining the Worry-Free Retirement. I hope you're enjoying this episode. And this is all about, the uniqueness of the Worry-Free Retirement. We're going back, if you're just joining us, we're telling the story of the bank representative who acts like he knows what we do, and apparently all we do is slap money in annuities. I don't know who got that idea, but anyway, the idea is the Worry-Free Retirement, first and foremost, we're all about trying to attack costs. See, the cost associated with trying to accumulate and use and enjoy your money, really cost, to me, is the biggest detriment. The stock market, yeah, that's risky and all that stuff, but what I worry about is you having to pay all these unnecessary fees many of you are paying, thousands of dollars of extra fees that in many cases we can reduce. That's money in your pocket. These taxes that most people have no clue how to help you with. If we can save you on taxes, that's money in your pocket. Many of you still have too high, your interest rates are too high on some of your loans. So figuring out how to strategize on what to do with that, that's an option. And of course, some of you just have insurance premiums. We'll get into this in another show. Many of you have old life insurance policies. Man, those things are going to blow up. I just saw an article on that recently. These policies, if you took them out in the 80s, many of them, folks, they're not going to last. The old adjustable and universal life. So those are potentially waste of money. So our goal is to try to save you money, put that money in your pocket, and then earn a reasonable rate of return. We're not trying to chase down 15, 20% stuff here. Remember, the higher you go in returns, the more risk you're taking, and the Worry-Free Retirement is about safety and security, not taking a lot of risk. Okay, so the last thing I want to point out on the Roth Conversion. This has happened twice. Years ago, I went to a conference. I went all the way to Boston. I mean, this was a disaster. I'd heard about this fella. I won't even name his name. He was supposed to be this Roth Conversion specialist. He had all this software. I'd talked to some advisors. They went on and on about him. Ironically, this was in the 90s. I was also associated with a concept called LEAP. And LEAP studies opportunity costs. So thankfully, I had a very good understanding of opportunity costs. So I go up to this conference. I'm all excited, and immediately he gets in, he's peddling software, which was a really cool software, and he started showing scenarios, and I mean, everybody's oohing and awing, and I'm watching for a minute, and I kind of interrupt him in a nice way, and I say, "Sir, I've got a question," and he's, kind of full of himself. He says, "What is it?" I could remember sitting there going, "Wow, okay." I said, "You did the Roth Conversion. I love your software, but you didn't account for the money you used for the taxes." And he said, "What are you talking about?" I accounted for it, and let's say the example was $20,000 in taxes. I said, "No, you accounted for it, but you didn't put an interest rate factor on that $20,000. And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I mean, logically, if you do a Roth conversion and you had to pay the government $20,000 in taxes, you've lost the $20,000 plus the interest that could have earned, and you didn't calculate that." And he's going, "Well, you don't calculate that." And I said, "Well, of course you would." And then I went to another conference a couple of years ago, and a gentleman is really pushing Roth conversions hard. And on the surface, again, I don't have a problem with a Roth conversion. He's talking about his whole spiel, it's a seminar he gives, is how to turn taxable income into tax-free income, which, yes, you can do that. We could take your money, and I could show you how through a Roth conversion, we could provide tax-free mailbox money for life. I can do that. The problem is this guy was doing the same thing the other guy was doing. He was not accounting for the fact that the tax that you're going to have to pay to convert to Roth loses interest forever. So, folks, here's the bottom line. If you have money in a 401k, IRA, pension plan, thrift savings account, and you really do want to try to protect that money, if you really do want to be serious about delving in and figuring out how to mitigate or try to minimize this tax tumor, if you're worried about pay me now or pay me later and you want to talk to somebody that this is all I do, I've done it for years. I am a fiduciary. I've been working in retirement planning for many, many years. Why don't we sit down and talk? There's absolutely no cost or obligation. You just log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started button, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call us at 877-499-9255, 877-499-WALK. And you remember, between now and next week and the time we visit, if all else fails, you be worry-free.
If you need it, you don't got it, you don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it, and it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Ask the rich man, he'll confess, money can't buy happiness.